Hey, good morning. Good morning. Good to see all of you here today. Welcome to First Temple. If you're a guest with us this morning, maybe it's your first time, thanks for being here. We're glad that you're sharing your Sunday morning with us. Maybe you're joining us online this morning. We are glad that you're with us as well. My name is Ryan Russell. I'm the teaching and young adult pastor here, and really looking forward to being with you guys. This is one of my favorite Sundays of the year. If you're a college basketball fan, you know why. It's Selection Sunday when the bracket comes out, and no human in history has ever made a perfect bracket. There's like a 1 in 9 quintillion chance of doing so. I become convinced every year that it's me and it's this year, and so I'm starting over today with that same ambition, and it's going to happen. I just know it, but maybe not. We'll see. But anyway, we're glad you're here. Looking forward to sharing some time in worship with you. We started a series last week called Digital Detox. And really, this series is all about talking about our relationship with technology and talking about the ways that technology so easily can pull us off of the purposes for which God created us. So yesterday, my family and I went to the zoo up in Waco, Cameron Park Zoo. We love going to the zoo. We all kind of have our favorite exhibits. I've always really enjoyed the lion exhibit. There's just something that's thrilling about being across a thin glass pane from a beast that could just completely destroy you, all right? I don't know what it is, but it's a rush of adrenaline or something. And so, these habitats that they create for these animals, thinking of the lion, are amazing, right? They do really the best job that they possibly can to make it look like this lion's natural habitat, giving it space to roam and to play and to eat. And yet, as good a job as they do, the best zoo in the world, I think you and I still realize, is not quite like the lion's natural habitat. Because, you see, a lion was made in order to be able to roam. A lion was made to live in a pride, right? A group with all these social dynamics. A lion was made to hunt for its own prey. And yet, we find that even though this habitat has been constructed really, really well, it's not the natural habitat for the lion. And you see, there's sort of a parallel for us as humans when it comes to technology. And we see it when we go out in public. We go out to dinner and you look over at the other tables and you see people who are enjoying a meal together, and yet every single person is on their phone. You see a parent walking through the store and a kid is tugging at their shirt, and yet they have no attention to offer. You see people waiting in line for something, and person after person is not talking with one another, not making introductions or connections. Everyone's just staring down at a device. And you see, in the same way that the lion was created for a different habitat, and you and I were created for a different habitat than this as well. See, as humans, we were made to talk and to connect and to laugh and to play and to think and to dream and to love. And yet far too often we get pulled right here to what I really think of as a cage. And it's not a cage with doors, and it doesn't have any locks. And even still, it's a cage of blue light. And we think because it doesn't have any doors or locks that we can get away from it really easily whenever we want. All we have to do is just put it down. And yet, man, it's hard to put it down, isn't it? We told ourselves time and time again that we'll get better, and yet we're stuck right here. And maybe we're not quite as free as we thought. And so this series called Digital Detox is going to be focused on helping us step out of the cage of blue light and to walk in the better life that God has for us and that he's planned for us instead. We're in the season right now called Lent, and Lent is really a 6-week season of self-reflection and renewal that leads us up to Easter Sunday, which is late this year. It's on Sunday, April 20th. And you may have heard of people doing something special for Lent, like giving up sugar or caffeine, alcohol, whatever. This year, instead of challenging you to think about something to give away individual to yourself, we thought, well, let's do a collective experience. Let's go through collectively a digital fast together, where we try to have a new relationship with technology for a short period of time. And so we are going to be doing, starting next week, a 28-day digital fast that's going to take us from March 23rd, which is next Sunday, up until Easter Sunday. So some of you have heard about this a couple weeks. Some of you, it's the first time you're hearing about it. That's okay. There's still time to kind of jump ahead because our start date for this is supposed to be next Sunday. And the reason we're doing this is it's not that we're anti-technology. It's not that we think technology is evil or anything like that. We need technology in our lives to be able to function, right? It's just that we know that we can really easily get to an unhealthy place with our habits when it comes to technology. And so this is a chance for us during Lent to focus more on self-reflection, renewal, and draw closer to God by stepping away just a little bit from our devices. We've even come up with some options for you about how you may want to spend this digital fast. So here they are. The first one is you may want to break from social media. I'm planning to do that next Sunday, planning to delete all those apps off of my phone. That's what I'm going to do. You may want to do a distraction fast where if there's some apps that really distract you, like a game or the news or YouTube or whatever, you remove those for a while. For me, that thing is email. I found that I'm checking it way too often on my phone, so I'm actually going to move that just onto my laptop completely so that I'm not checking it on my phone. That's kind of my plan for working on that. You may want to do a full fast of just, go for it, no screens for entertainment sort of thing. Or you may want to do a modified fast. This is really where you can kind of create your own adventure. If you could decide a time you want to put your phone to bed every evening, or have certain days of the week that have different sort of restrictions from the other. My favorite is last week I talked to a family who was driving home from church. I guess this was 2 weeks ago. And they said that their kids got in the car, and the three of them started talking about what they were going to give up for Lent. And this wasn't like the parents saying, hey, you need to do something. The three of them just started brainstorming together, and collectively, these elementary and preschoolers decided that they were going to give up TV before school. They get up in the morning and watch it before school, but they decided we're not going to do that anymore during Lent. Isn't that incredible? Kids coming up with this on their own. And so whatever it is for you, whatever makes sense for your life and your situation, figure it out. Details are not important to us about matching a certain criteria. Do something that's helpful for you to help you pull away from technology for this 4-week period, and you can refocus more on God. Regardless of what you do, one piece of advice I have is to adjust the notifications on your phone. Research shows that we get 46 notifications a day on average on our phones. Teens actually get an average of over 200 per day. And what a notification is basically your phone telling you when it's time to use it. And so to reverse that and put yourself back in the driver's seat, what you can do is limit, or even better, eliminate those notifications so you're using your phone and your phone's not telling you when to use it. So there's ways you can go in your settings and do all of that, and that's really helpful to just sort of get on the path of being in charge of your relationship with technology. I want you to know that we also have a workbook that's available if you're someone that likes journaling or likes a companion guide to guide you through a process. We have a workbook right here, and we're selling these at the connection point outside these doors. They're $15, which is just what they cost us. And so if that would be helpful to you in any way, we do have some limited supply of those, and we hope that you'll go through that experience with us. So throughout this series, we're going to be choosing a variety of sermon texts, Bible texts that help us along with this journey. The Bible doesn't actually talk about technology itself, big surprise, but it does actually talk a lot about why we were created and what we've been created for, and the new life and the good life that Jesus has come to give us. And so we're going to be looking at texts that center on those themes. And today, our text is John chapter 10. And so if you have a Bible, you can turn there. We'll also have the text on the screen as well. John chapter 10 is Jesus talking with us, and he is going to use this extended metaphor with us, okay, about sheep. And as we listen to Jesus talking about sheep, I want you to listen for a contrast that Jesus is going to make between a thief and between a shepherd, because that's what we're going to talk about after we read this passage. So I'll read John 10, starting in verse 1. Jesus talks to the Pharisees. He says, "Very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, the religious leaders of the day, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Okay, so this text here from Jesus makes a contrast again between the thief and between the shepherd. And so it tells us that the shepherd enters into the sheep pen through the gate, through the front door, so to speak. And the sheep, they listen to the shepherd because they know the shepherd. They have a relationship with the shepherd. And the sheep listen to him and they follow him wherever the shepherd leads. But on the other hand, the thief lacks this sort of relational connection with the sheep. The sheep do not know the voice of the thief. He is unfamiliar to them. And so the thief must climb in over the fence illegitimately. He must sneak his way in and try to exert control over the sheep in a way that they do not necessarily want. And so you see, the shepherd works with the sheep, and the thief works against them. The shepherd does things for the sheep, and the thief does things to them. Jesus goes on a few verses later to identify himself in verse 14 as the good shepherd. He says this, he says, "I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me." He speaks of that relationship that all of us are invited to have with him, that he can lead us to good pastures. But in verse 10, a few verses before, Jesus brings this contrast to a culmination with these words. He says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." And so there's the contrast. The thief has come to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have life abundantly. So Jesus has identified himself as the good shepherd, but that sort of raises the question about who is the thief? Who could it be? Is the thief the devil? Is it a person? Is it the Pharisees that Jesus is talking to here? And what's interesting is rather than identifying the thief as a particular person, what Jesus is doing here is Jesus creates an archetype of the thief. And he says that the thief is anyone or anything that comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Those are the criteria. So the thief is anyone or anything that seeks to suck life out of us rather than offer and give life, give us life abundant. And so the thief, by that definition, could be the devil. It could be a person. It could be systems or structures in our world. Or it could even be an object in your pocket, like a phone. Anything that sucks life away from you rather than offering you abundant life. Now, in this passage here, when Jesus is speaking these words 2,000 years ago, obviously he is not referring directly to the iPhone 16. Right? It's not as if he's breaking the fourth wall and staring into the camera and, I don't know what I'm talking about, but you people 2,000 years ago, you get it, right? No, the idea is that in every generation and in every context and every place around the globe, there's an application for the thief. There is something that steals and kills and destroys. It's an archetype. And if our phones are doing that, having that kind of effect in our life of stealing, killing, destroying, placing us in a cage, so to speak, and they fit the archetype, and we can think about them as the thief. And so today, I want to talk with you about the price of your device. And I'm not talking about the sticker price that you paid for it, that outrageous amount when you went to the AT&T or Verizon store, right? I'm talking about the price that each of us pay all the time by using it on a daily basis. And what I want to do is actually talk about the ways that technology affects us through the lens of John 10:10, through the lens of steal, kill, and destroy. So here's what I'd suggest to you today is that our phones steal our time, they kill our self-image, and they destroy the next generation. That's what we want to talk about here today. So first of all, we'll talk about this idea of stealing our time. Seth Godin is an author and former business executive who talks about the reality that we think our phones work for us, but in reality, we work for our phones. And he's got this quote. I don't have it on your screen, so just follow along as I say it. He says, "Your smartphone has two jobs. On one hand, it was hired by you to accomplish certain tasks. But most of the time, your phone works for corporations and large social networks. They've hired it to put you to work for them. You're not the customer, you're the product. Your attention and your anxiety is getting sold cheap." Economists talk about what's called the attention economy. It's the idea that your attention is actually for sale. And so the idea is that there are actually executives that sit around an office all day planning and scheming about how to get your attention. What are the systems and structures and devices and plans that they can roll out in order to actually receive more and more of your attention? And their plans are working really well, right? We look around and we look at our own lives and we just find that we're mindlessly scrolling. We don't even know what we're looking for. We're not even sure how we got here. And it's the evidence that the plan is working. Our attention is being stolen. And again, this was not the environment that we were created to live in as humans. It's something like a zoo. We have been put in a cage. It's a cage of blue light. The workbook that I mentioned a few moments ago has an exercise on day 2 that actually prompts you to check some boxes of things that have been stolen from you in your life by technology. And it has a list, and I want to show you that list because I thought it was really good and really helpful just to think through. If any of these things have been stolen from you, that our devices can steal sleep, steal family time, steal creativity, contentment, joy, peace of mind, health, ability to be present, focus, productivity, energy, social activities, hobbies, curiosity, money, time with God. Man, my hand is hurting just checking all these boxes, right? Am I alone? Anybody else out there feel the same way, right? That it's amazing when we start thinking about all the things that have been stolen from us. And so our phones are stealing our time. The thief has come to steal. And yet Jesus tells us in John 10, chapter 10, that he has come differently to give us life and life abundant. You see, when we look at the Gospels, what we see is stories of how Jesus used his time. And we see stories about how Jesus did not waste his time, but neither did he hoard his time all to himself. No, you see, Jesus actually saw time as a gift that he had to offer up to other people, to love and to care and to serve for others. And so if the thief is here to steal our time, then the abundant life that Jesus gives us instead means that if we connect our life to the life of Jesus, then we can begin to use our time differently. That we can begin to see time as a gift as well. It's something that we have partially for ourselves, yes, but also to be given away to others. And so the way that we see time begins to function differently. So first of all, our devices are stealing our time. Secondly, they are killing our self-image. And this primarily happens through social media. Social media invites us into the realm of comparison. And we've all had this experience of seeing the posts of other people and immediately being pulled into places of insecurity or of jealousy or of being discontent. We find ourselves thinking things like, man, how did they find the time to read all those books? Or how did they afford that trip? Or how are they aging so well? Or how are they so close with their kids? Or how do they have so many friends? It invites us into this place of comparison, and it begins to kill our self-image. We even begin to feel anxiety sometimes about posting something about ourselves out in the real world. We begin to think about how other people are going to see it and how they're going to perceive it. And all of a sudden we feel the need to sort of manage the perception of others of ourselves. We have a public image to manage. We can start to obsess over the reactions of other people, of how many likes that post got, who liked it, who didn't like it, and why didn't they like it, and who commented, and what did they say, and what does that actually really mean, under the surface. We waste so much time thinking about those things, and our image is caught up in all of this. As I think about my own journey, about a decade ago, I was posting all the time. I was telling you what I had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whether you cared or not. Maybe not quite, but a lot of posting going on. And over the last decade, what I've just realized slowly is I don't like what this is doing to me. I don't like the effect that it's having on my life and the way that it causes me to think and obsess about things that really don't matter a lot. And so I'll still post, but it's gone down a lot just because I don't like what it's doing to me. And, I think it's important that we acknowledge that this is kind of a recent human phenomenon that we're going through right here. For most of human history, people didn't take photographs at all, okay? And it's really only the last 15 years that we've had a device in our pockets that allows us to take photographs literally whenever we want. So today, the average person takes about 180 photographs a month. And so that is most likely more photos than your great-grandparents took over the course of their entire lifetime. And we're taking that many photos in a month. And we don't post all those photos, of course, but some of them we do, and it gets us caught in this cycle of stress and anxiety and perception, and it kills our self-image, and we can't climb out of the hole. It's almost as if we've stepped into a cage of our own making, a cage that we were not made to live in, and yet we've trapped ourselves there. And so the thief has come to kill, and yet Jesus has come to offer life and life abundant. When we look at the life of Jesus, we see the ways that Jesus had to think about his public image as well. On the one hand, he had disciples who had certain expectations of him, that he was to be a certain kind of Messiah, a warrior king who would come and conquer. On the other side, he had Pharisees and critics who wanted him to uphold a certain view, a traditional view of the Jewish law. And Jesus had to push the expectations of both sides away from him. And he had to be true to who God had called him to be, that he had come from the Father, and he had come here for a specific purpose. And so in the same way that the thief has come to steal, and yet Jesus has come to offer us abundant life, when we link our life up to the life of Jesus, Jesus helps us be stable with our self-image. That we can get to a place where we don't have to be caught up in the perception of others and what they think about us. We can get to a place of being secure in who we are, that we are a son and we are a daughter of the Most High God. And that is enough for us, regardless of what anyone else thinks. So our devices are stealing our time, they're killing our self-image, and finally they're destroying the next generation. Sounds like a sort of overdramatic thing to say, but hang with me for just a moment. There's a book that came out in the last couple years by an author named Jonathan Haidt, and it's called The Anxious Generation. Here's a look at the cover there. Man, I love that photo. Isn't that awesome? I don't know about y'all. I grew up in the era where I'd go to Burger King and they had a ball pit like this. Anybody else have one like that? Amazing memories. I think they're probably horrible for public health, but man, they're good for the soul. I miss those days. I really do. And so, but I love that picture of just in a ball pit, on an iPhone. And so Jonathan Haidt wrote this book. It's in the past couple years, and it became a number one New York Times bestseller, because what Haidt did is he tracked the effects that smartphones have had on youth and on children. And he kind of takes us through it chronologically. He says, okay, go back to 2010. Remember that in 2010, pretty much everybody had a flip phone. Raise your hand with me if you had a flip phone in 2010. Man, those were the days, right? Okay, a lot of us did. So everybody had a flip phone in 2010. And then between 2010 and 2015, you see this mass migration to the smartphone. So by the time you get to 2015, pretty much everybody has, a smartphone of some kind. And so this is a 10-year sort of human experiment that we're living in about what phones do to us when we have constant access to them. And so we're just really getting our hands on some of this research that is still sort of very early. And what Haidt has found and seen, as others have as well, is that phones are having negative effects on all of us, but they're especially harmful to children and to youth. And what we're seeing is that mental health issues are skyrocketing among younger generations. Haidt would say that we have raised an anxious generation. That's the name of the book. And look at a quote with me from his work. Haidt says, even when adolescents are not on their devices and appear to be doing something in the real world, such as sitting in class, eating a meal, or talking with you, a substantial portion of their attention is monitoring or worrying, being anxious about events in the social metaverse. I think some adults in the room can probably relate to that as well. We're not fully immune to that reality either. As the MIT professor Sherry Turkle wrote in 2015 about life with smartphones, we are forever elsewhere. Love that quote. And Haidt says this is a profound transformation of our social life. And so Haidt, who's become, again, this leading expert in the field, has 4 proposals for us about habits or practices that we ought to take up for the younger generation in order to restore children to their childhood. And these are the 4 recommendations that he makes. He suggests no smartphones until age 14. No social media until age 16. And this is all based on brain science of how children develop. Phone-free schools. And then more unsupervised play. And so look, as a parent, I know that life is messy and every parent has to decide for themselves what they're going to do. Everyone's situation's different. No one's here to judge anyone. Sometimes it's hard to take things back that you've already given. All those disclaimers are in play. And yet what Haidt helps us see is that we were simply not made to live in this environment. We were not made to live in the cage of blue light, and we're still adjusting to that as a society. And so if the thief has come to destroy, then Jesus, again, has come to offer life, life abundantly. We look at how Jesus interacted with children. We look at how he welcomed them. We look at how he protected children. Some of his strongest warnings were against those who harmed children. He said it would be better for someone to have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown into the sea than to harm one of these. He welcomed them. He protected them. He exalted them and said we should all become like children. And so as parents and as adults, one of our biggest responsibilities is to protect the next generation from the thief, the archetype of the thief, wherever it may pop up, and to introduce them to the abundant life that can be found in Jesus. And so again, Jesus says, the thief has come to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that you may have a life and have it abundantly. And so this abundant life that Jesus talks about is the life where you live away from your anxieties, away from your insecurities, away from your fear and shame and anger, whatever catches you up. And the love of God is known and experienced into your life, and it flows through your bones, out of you to every person that you interact with and meet, so that they sense and encounter the love of God through you. Jesus offers us that abundant life. He makes it possible to us. And in order to experience it, we have to step away from the things that are stealing and killing and destroying. And so my invitation to you is that this digital fast that we're going to start next week, a week from today, here's those options again. You may want to think about what this is going to look like for you. It's not for forever. We're inviting you to think about doing this for 4 weeks of time, a limited amount of time to experiment with something, okay? Maybe it becomes permanent habits. Maybe it's a 4-week thing. Either way, that's okay. Just step into it for just a short amount of time. And the 2 questions that I would invite you to think about are these. In what ways are devices sucking life from your life? And then how can you use this digital fast to experiment with living differently? What might that look like for you to experiment with living differently? One of the ways that I'm not starting till next week, but the thing that I'm starting to experiment with to help me get ready for this 4-week period is I've taken my phone and I've turned off the color filter, okay? So that it is only in black and white. And you can do this real easily. You just go into settings and then accessibility and then display, turn off the color filter. And I didn't come up with this, others have done it. But the reason that you do this is that it reminds you when you look at your phone and you see it in black and white, it reminds you that the real world is out there. The real world is in color. And then this is just a shadow of it. And so as we embark on this experiment over the next few weeks, I don't know what this looks like for you, but I hope that together we can go on this journey of remembering that we were made for so much more. And I hope that together we can step out of this cage that we have stepped into together. Would you pray with me? God, we thank you for the blessing of new life that you have offered. God, forgive us for when we reject it. Forgive us when we settle for so much less. Forgive us for when we're distracted. God, you have big purposes and plans for our life and things you want to do in and through us. And there's so much more, and yet we're stuck in this hole. And God, today we come saying we want to get out of it and we want your help. And so would you speak to us about what this needs to look like in each one of our lives? We love you, Lord, and we pray this in your name. Amen.